Sign. So you did that in Vietnam. Now, there's a one. Oh, good. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Tim.
How's it going, Tim?
Live. Good evening. Let me call to order, please, the regular meeting of the Summers Board of Finance for January 28th, 2025. We have Paul Hart present. Bruce Devlin is here. Joe Tolasano, Kathy Devlin, and Mike Parker. We have our distinguished financial gurus present, Brian Wissinger and Mike, our semi-retired, half-retired consulting chief financial officer. But he's here, which is good. The Board of Education update is somehow before the Board of Selectmen update, but we can deal with that.
You can go first if you want.
No, we prefer you, Sam. You're the one that has the education and the experience, the wit, the humor.
I'll take that.
Good evening. I have two updates for you, but the one I think you're probably most interested in is last night I presented to the Board of Education a budget proposal. The percent presented last night was 5.72. The amount was $30,487,415. So they have time to deliberate about my proposal. But what I say to you and what I said last night, my objectives are simply three: to maintain and improve our current programs, to be fiscally responsible, and to support student growth and development. So in that number, there are no new staff hires in that number. So that's important to know. So that's the big news from last night. The other subject that I will inform this board of is that the elementary school HVAC project is moving forward. They're scheduled to start removing ceiling tiles in April, so they can, during the April break, so they can take measurements and procure materials, order materials, so when school is out, they can immediately begin to work, and there's no lag time with waiting. Those are my two items for you this evening.
What's the change in census in the school between last year and this year?
Not much. You know, since we're here, and it's probably town knowledge, we are engaged in, I'll say, collaborative discussions about either relocating students while this work is going on or keeping them in place. But the student pop has been stable.
At?
District-wide.
I'm sorry?
District-wide.
He's looking for the number of pupils and whether it's changed from last year.
And my response was stable.
That's the same.
Yeah, we have just over 1,300 students on campus.
Okay.
The elementary school has about 660 students, and MBA is about 340. Let me not speculate. Let me just give you exact, since we're here. SES, 643 students. Our middle school, 334, and the high school has 360.
360, you said?
Correct, at the high school.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
And class size? Are you within that grouping that the third?
Yes, we are.
Class size, small, large, medium, right where you want it to be?
Elementary is very manageable. By contract, they have a number in there that we can't go over, but there's certainly enough room, so there's no issue there. Middle school is manageable. In the high school, some of the class sizes have been low, but they're going to alternate some of the course selections to maximize the student counts during the semesters.
So you have a $1.6 million increase, give or take my math.
Affirmative.
How much of that is fixed, roughly? 50%, 70%
No,
salary?
It's close to 90%
It's fixed.
between salaries and benefits.
And insurance.
Salary is about 81%, and the rest would make up the benefits.
So if we were to chisel away at that, we'd have to put bodies on the street. I think it's something you haven't deliberated yet, but it's something that eventually we would have to deliberate, depending on how much we want to increase and how much the state is going to open their wallet for
Right,
us.
right.
So that's
Yes,
the next 45 to 60 days.
that's correct, yes.
Okay.
Yep. I appreciate that insight.
No, I'm just trying to get my head
Yeah.
around it, because you deal with it every day, and I deal with it once a month, so I'm just trying to understand where we're at.
Yep.
Any further questions for Sam? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
Sure.
Got a report from the selectmen?
Good evening, members of the board. A couple of things I wanted to mention. One is I've been a little more active than in the past in going to meetings in other towns, like meetings of town executives for the Hartford and Tolland County. Another one is the CROG meetings. Actually, I've gone online for those. And tomorrow I'll be attending a COST. It's a Council of Small Towns meeting at the AquaTurf. Their 50th anniversary, so I figured I probably ought to go. Todd Rowland's going with me, and they're going to be talking a lot about roads and transportation, that kind of thing as well. One of the things I learned today, I went to a lunch today with the town first selectmen from the towns of Ellington, Stafford, Union, Willington, and Tolland, as well as the town administrator from Ellington. And, it was a sort of very informal lunch, but Ellington, didn't cost us anything, by the way. I didn't pick up the check. Ellington did. But anyway, I did, and you're going to hear more about this from Brian, but I did hear from, in talking to the town administrator from Ellington, that they're likely to accept our proposal to pay for the advanced life support agreement. They have to submit it to their Board of Selectmen, I think it's on the 8th of February, but that's the last stop on the train. So that's good news. Brian will tell you what it's worth and all that. Let's see. I also want to just announce that our library was down for 4 days last week due to boiler problems. And required a lot of additional attention, trying to dig into it to figure out what the problem was. At one point during the week, we had to have 24-hour people on the scene because it was so cold. We wanted to make sure that pipes didn't freeze. And we had space heaters around the building inside. And we also had to have a fire watch because of all the things going on inside. So that's going to require overtime and things like that. But things like that break down, and obviously it's a maintenance issue. And Brian also tell you, I think we had a blown engine on one of our fire trucks. It cost us $15,000. It was unplanned.
Transfer request?
I don't know how it's going to be
Not
handled.
yet.
It's a lot of consternation. Also, you might be interested that town police discovered a woman who had died 6 weeks before in her house in Summers. She's 71 years old and alcoholic, didn't have much conversation going on with neighbors, didn't have a cell phone. So I, as the first selectman, I'm going to be petitioning the probate court to get moving on her estate, because we need to have an administrator appointed to make sure the house doesn't run out of electricity or heat. She had a house, I think it was, I don't know about a mortgage, a house, a car, and a bank account. And we figured out the bank account just because she paid for her taxes on her house with a check. So we were able to locate the check, figure out what her bank account number was. And so I'm going to probably appoint John Parks, because of his involvement with the probate court in Enfield, to be the administrator for the estate, take care of the house, take care of the car and the bank accounts, and file whatever papers need to be filed with the probate court to move this thing along. There are no known relatives, so one of the first things that we'll ask for is a guardian ad litem to go out and try to find out, are there any living relatives? And this is somewhat of a unique situation, but just thought I'd mention that. Let's see, also, the Board of Selectmen has seated a charter revision commission, seated 7 different people on it. I'll mention who they are. Mike Marinaccio is one. John Parks is another. Scott Copen, who used to be the town mayor of Enfield for almost like 18 years. Very knowledgeable about governments, and I finally got him to agree to do something. I'd asked him a few other times whether he wanted to do something. He didn't want to get involved politically. I said, well, this is pretty much apolitical. Terry Schmidt, who you know is Bob Schmidt's wife, and she's done a lot of things in town. Plus, she was on the last Charter Revision Commission, so she'll have some, lend some continuity to it, and I think she's got pretty good judgment herself. Ed Dupo, who is on the Board of Education, I see is really an upstanding individual. He's a natural leader. He's a school teacher, really good guy. Kathy Lurs, whose dad used to be the JMH administrator, Johnson Memorial Hospital. Kathy's got a master's in nursing. She works in New Haven, but she's a very solid person. And Tom Clark, who used to be a state trooper, retired from that. He's been living in Summers for the last 15 years or so, 15 or 20 years. And is involved in real estate. He and his wife have a real estate business in Enfield, actually, not Summers. So that's about my report. Any questions?
Any question?
I do. Hey, Tim, when you went to this roundtable with the surrounding towns, are they also facing some of the deficits that we're facing with the items that Brian outlined in the memo from yesterday?
Yeah, we talked about that today. I mean, we're a little bit ahead of them, by the way. We've learned how bad it is. And
what is the primary driver?
Well, the primary driver is unfunded mandates from the state. I mean, they came in and said, hey, you got to revalue your new way to evaluate your vehicles, cars, depreciation. That's a $500,000 hit right there. The ability to give veterans who are permanently disabled tax breaks on their homes, on their houses. In the first year, it's just the house, but they're going to include next year the house and the lot. So we're going to lose, I think, $300,000 on that alone. and of course, the anticipated hit on the school funding. It's $1 million right there, so that's a mill we're starting with right there that we're not getting, and that is being forced on the town. And I don't see any relief in sight to any of those areas.
That was my question. So we've talked about this at CIP. I mean, the state is sitting on the most cash they've had in history. They just found $340 million they didn't even know they had. And they're passing unfunded mandates. And they changed the algorithm. I mean, you know all this, but, where's the outcry from town?
Yeah, I know.
Where's our legislator and or senators? What are they saying about this? Has anybody reached out to them or written to the governor or CCM or?
So Sam, just so you're up, we have a $3.5 million shortfall in this year's budget.
I'm aware.
Okay.
But do you know what this should be boiling to the top.
Yeah.
Maybe if they took all that money and put it on debt relief and took the money that they were going to pay for debt and gave it to us, it would be better than what they have no plan, although they have $5 billion in cash.
And there's all talk is about guardrails and what that means and whether there's any relief or,
But I think we need to write some letters and bang on the table. And,
So, in all honesty, the vehicle excise is ridiculous.
It is.
The proportion that we're paying for vehicles is crazy, but you can't take a town that's reliant on that and suddenly pull the rug out from underneath them.
well, it's happening in
gotta be
every
staged in.
town,
Right,
too.
right.
I know, I'm not saying our town,
Yeah.
but I'm saying you
Statewide.
It's
can't,
huge.
you can't take a town that's been accustomed to that revenue
and change it.
and change it and expect them to somehow make up this
Right.
huge
Swallow it.
delta.
Somehow the state has to clean that up.
I agree.
I mean, they have to.
They should have scaled it in, and they did.
Well, they
not.
should have
They
phased
just,
it in.
Yeah, they just pulled it right. This is what we're going to do, and it's day one. Nobody really did any
Analysis.
They
analysis
didn't
of
understand
what the
it, I
impact
think,
would
probably.
be.
They're just
It's going to be devastating to our whole town.
Right.
And our town's one of 169 towns. It's
So
gonna be
that's the
hit.
point. I mean, where is the outcry? I mean, we're way ahead of
Yeah.
it, but I mean, do we write letters? Do we ask Vail and Kissel to come in and,
Yeah.
you
We'll come up with a plan.
I mean, as the CEO, you've got to lead, and
Yeah,
you will.
yeah.
And I'm just saying, we're 100% behind you, whatever you want to do.
Okay,
At least I am.
right.
I am too.
It's unconscionable. what
I
they
don't know
do.
how we can balance our budget without massive layoffs, which is going to hurt our town in the long run.
Right,
Or large tax increases.
right.
Right.
Which won't pass.
And it's got to be likely a combination of both.
But it's early in the ballgame. I mean, the governor hasn't even done his state address, so I think there's some liquidity in this process here, and common sense will prevail.
And we're certainly hopeful for some of that. I don't think it's going to be at the level that we need it to be at. I mean, the motor vehicles really was, that's a hit.
That's a killer.
I mean, almost $19 million in assessment. That's a big pill to swallow. And to just make it all of a sudden in 1 year, and we're just switching the way we do everything. Nobody understood what the impact would be. When the bill was passed, their original statement to towns was, your cars that are 3 to 5 years old are really going to see the most change. But other than that, you shouldn't see much change. It's not true at all. It's not even close to the truth.
There was no analysis.
We've had Karen kind of went through, and spot picked certain cars here and there, and we had pickup trucks that on the 2023 grand list were valued at $26,000, and then this year they were 12. And while it doesn't seem like a lot, when you start cutting, 1,500 cars in town in half on their value, it adds up quickly.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll probably not get back to what we need it to. We are hopeful that the state will come off of some of that cash.
You also have to wonder, why did they do that? I mean, what's
Just so suddenly.
the rationale? I mean,
I mean, their thought process behind it was, then everybody is using the same exact dollar value. So your car here is worth $45,000. It's worth $45,000 in Ellington. It's worth $45,000 in Greenwich. There's no locationary value change, was their thought process behind it, which in hindsight is a great idea, because we do run into where people have, moved into town from somewhere else and they're like, wow, my car has never been worth this before, Well, yeah, you lived in a different area and the value didn't need to be as high. They eliminated the Board of Assessment Appeals from cars altogether. The only thing you can appeal is the original MSRP value of the car. Other than that, if it's a 2019 and you wrapped it around a light pole, it's worth the same as if you didn't.
And I'm paying on an ATV that I can't even drive on the road.
Yep. And a lot of those things are going away and becoming not taxable. A lot of trailers, things of that nature, they're writing them off. They're not even going to be on the list.
We talked at CIP about engaging the lobbyists that you guys have under contract to try to help let our feelings be known. I mean, this is,
It's more than 10% of our budget.
no, and we know about it. Half the towns probably don't even know the impact.
Yeah, I was talking.
At lunch, you said they don't even.
Yeah, I was talking to the first selectman in Union, and he hasn't even figured out yet what it means to his town. But he said between he and a friend of his who both live in Union, they're going to save $8,000 in taxes on cars.
Yes.
That's all he knows.
They better figure
I haven't
it out
done that
quickly.
math yet on my
They only
car,
have
but-
till Friday to get their grand list done, so they better get on it.
I find it less offensive to pay more in real estate than on the vehicles. But
I mean, the state's eventual goal is to get rid of the motor vehicle tax altogether.
Yeah, but that's something you do over 5 to 10
Yeah.
years.
Absolutely.
However,
Absolutely.
the plus side is you do get renters paying something towards the town
Right.
when you have a motor vehicle tax.
Right.
Because otherwise renters skate
Yeah.
free.
Otherwise, renters don't pay tax. Well, they do, but they pay it through their rent, because then the
It's
property
indirect.
value would obviously increase because the tax is higher on somebody's house that they're renting. So the rent naturally goes up,
But it's indirect.
but it is indirect. You're absolutely correct.
But that made me nauseous. Mm-hmm. We can't sustain that kind of a cut.
Yeah.
Further?
No, thank you, Tom.
Brian, do you have something for us?
I mean, we touched on most of it. We did go out at the beginning of the month. Tim, myself, fire chief, and the chief of the paramedic side all met with the town of Ellington. We proposed the same agreement with them that we have in place with Stafford. They were very welcoming of it. They understood that the math behind everything, that we are practically subsidizing their calls when we go there. They have had a few weeks now, 2-3 weeks ago. They've had a few weeks to review it and look it over. And like Tim said, he spoke to them today, and they seem willing to sign the agreement. Ellington is about 100 calls a year. So, they're in that 8 to 10 per month range. It probably, 25,000 revenue that we'll see from that to, offset the monies that the ambulance fund is subsidizing for them to be able to pick up the phone and make that call. Again, we approach them the same way. We're not looking to make money. We're looking to break even, and we were able to demonstrate our break-even point, and they seemed very receptive of it.
Thank you, Tim, for jumping on that.
And then, the grand list as a whole is down, not just the motor vehicle. Personal property, the solar field up on Bilton Road that we were in litigation on for 2.5 years. When we finally reached an agreement, that solar field is completely tax exempt until the state legislature decides on a per kilowatt amount that they are going to charge, and then they agreed that they would pay that. So that the assessment on that property was somewhere around 11 million. So we saw almost $10 million decrease in personal property. The net of that, we did have a slight increase in some businesses in town that didn't show the full 11 million. And the same with real estate. Real estate was going to be around 6.2 to 6.5 increase, but then the veterans exemption kicks in. I think they said that we have 27 properties in town that became fully exempt. It's worth $3.5 million. And that's only the houses this year. I would anticipate next year probably another $1.5 million to $2 million when they throw in the land and, sheds and swimming pools and everything else that gets taxed on a property because it encompasses the entire plot next year. So I would anticipate that to see a decrease. The saving grace for next year is that at least we have reval, so maybe we'll see some increase in values townwide, but
What's
Yeah.
what's the qualification for the disability? Is it 100%?
yes, they have to have a letter from the Federal Department of Veterans Affairs stating that they are 100% permanent and total disabled. Some of these people are still able to work and still work full-time jobs. They're just, based on the government's definition of what is 100% permanent and totally disabled, they meet those qualifications.
What if a house is jointly owned between a disabled veteran and a non-disabled spouse?
If they're on it, it's,
So it's not like it's a 50% break?
nope.
Okay. And it doesn't require it to be physical?
No, the disability can be,
PTSD.
it can be anything as long as it's 100% permanent and total.
Okay.
It's interesting because even, my father, who's a veteran, he qualifies for 100% permanent and total. Healthy as a horse, he can't hear a thing, but he has hearing aids and hears fine with them. But he would, if he lived in town, he would qualify for it and he wouldn't pay taxes.
When you say lived in town, it's not just our town, it's every town?
It's every town statewide, yeah. And that's another one that, again, the state didn't really anticipate what it was going to be when they did their initial analysis on it. They said statewide they anticipated it to affect about 1,100 people. Summers has 27. I got to assume cities like Hartford probably have, close to 500-600 themselves. It's going to be a lot more. Even if every town in Connecticut had only 27, I think we did the math, I think it was like 4,500 people. I don't know where they got their 1,100 number from, but they've really missed the bullseye again.
So we've had a whole swarm of problems hit all at once.
All at once.
From the state.
Yep. And all sent down from the state, none of which we had any control over.
That's crazy.
Yep.
That's like the unfunded education mandate that they do all the time.
Right, and the exploding costs to service outplaced students, there's like no cap on that. So, we're in conversations with the commissioner and the governor. I was in a meeting about a month ago, and there needs to be a cap on that. So other states like Massachusetts, they cap the amount that an outplacement facility can go in 1 year. Right now, it's like almost like a lawless land because you can't control how much they're going to go up.
Who's in charge?
Question that all the time. Do you have
Anything
anything
further, Brian?
nice
Any
to
questions
offer
from you?
tonight?
I walked into
Other
Mike's
than
office.
that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play?
I had 2 straight weeks where it seemed like every time somebody walked into the office, everything was just bad news. Finally, I walked into Mike's office and I was like, do you have some kind of good news? Just anything. I don't care what it is. Just give me some kind of good news.
And I sent them an email that the state partnership doubled their insurance rate.
Yep. And then,
We thought it was going to be 5 to 6%, now it's going to be 10 to 12.
now it's a 10% increase.
in a month.
Yep. And that's the first, the town has been on the state partnership plan since July of 2018, fiscal year 19, we joined. And this is the first significant increase we've seen since then. Every year before that, it was 1%, 0.5%. We had a couple of flat years. So again, and a lot of that was at the time we joined in fiscal 19. Fiscal 21 was the COVID year. They dumped a ton of ARPA dollars into the state partnership plan. And, we're in the same boat. You use one-time dollars for recurring costs, eventually it catches up to you, and now the piper has come to get paid, and now the state, even with their partnership plan, is saying, we got to increase rates 10% so that we can get back to where we need to be. Rather than every year just 2%, 2%, 2%, they would have got the same 10 over 5 years, but instead they've put it off until they couldn't anymore, and it's one large increase. They are changing their formula, though, and they're doing biennial increases, so the 10% this year will be flat next year, and then who knows 2 years from now what it'll be.
You seen the same thing at the school?
Yeah, they're on the same plan.
Same plan?
Yeah, we were living a similar life. We were in a good place on a Friday and then a very bad place.
Yeah. Yep.
Gosh. Anything good?
Any further
No, I
questions for
mean, even
Brian?
the Chiefs are still in the Super Bowl. It's still nothing
That's
good.
terrible.
Exactly. Still nothing good.
Is Stafford good news? Yeah.
They continue to pay us, which is great. We had 16 calls in December. Sent the invoice. They paid it within a week. They've it's now amassed just shy of 10,000 they've paid us for calls in 3 months of operating. So,
Are you getting cash from the residents on the difference?
yeah, the insurances are still paying. We're going to continue to follow it along. Lisa should be getting me some second quarter numbers on revenue pretty soon, and we can look at it and make sure that we're still trending in the right direction and that the money's coming in are paying for the operation. But it seems to be working so far.
Good.
I do like that the firehouse has the calls
Yeah, on the sign.
tallied on that electronic sign, and because it's more than I think most people realize.
Yep.
I think I saw it at 2,200 plus in December.
Yep.
Yeah, but wait till they get their tax notes.
Yeah. Yeah, fair.
We have a lot of calls for heart attacks.
Any
Can
further-
I ask one thing before we go on? I'm sorry. I have one more.
I just wanted to ask if you had any more questions.
I did.
As opposed to jibes or comments or silly
No.
thoughts.
This 3.5 deficit, that is absolutely for the current fiscal year? Or is it for future?
That's for the budgetary fiscal 26. That's the year we're budgeting for right now.
Okay, so it's not for the current one?
No, for the current year,
25,
we are
26.
on track. I don't anticipate a large return to fund balance this year because some of the state aid is not coming through that we had originally anticipated. But I do anticipate probably 100 to 200,000 return to
Town side.
fund balance. What's that?
Town side?
Yeah, total overall,
Okay.
between expenses and revenue. But yeah, it won't be $800,000-900,000 year like it has been in the past.
Okay. Now I'm done, Mike. Yes.
You have a report for us?
Yes, so we met today. We have a list of items that we're going to purchase. I will say with the ARPA funds and COVID relief, we've done well with capital over the last few years, but this year's number is about $586,996. We haven't finalized that number. We will continue to meet. We have an increase projected for the budget of an extra 100,000. In CIP, I mean, we're almost $40 million budget, and we were spending $250,000 a year on capital. So that really doesn't work. So what I'm saying is, as we go through the budget process, we have some flexibility in that number. If you need 100 back, we can defer some stuff. So as we get closer to final numbers, we'll be able to give you a final tally. But remaining open and hopeful. Brian, you got anything to add?
No, I think you hit that one on the head.
I think we've already talked about the budget update. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. And the grand list, we talked about that as well.
Yep, I gave you the actual breakdown of it so you can see it. It's behind the calendar at the end, but give you that so you can see the actual changes in the grand list by category, and then the notes and what it means and what the reduction equates to in taxes and so forth.
Are there appropriations and transfers to consider?
There are not.
I didn't think so. Any other business?
Just a quick review. I gave you guys a March, April, and May calendar. Kind of goes through the budget meetings that the Board of Finance will conduct. Monday, March 10th is the Board of Education's planned public hearing for their budget. In the past, we've always met the following Tuesday, the day after, and had both the Board of Ed and Board of Selectmen present their budgets to the Board of Finance for the first time. 2 weeks later would be the regular Board of Finance meeting in March to further discuss the budget. In April 10th is the last date to finalize the budget, to meet the public hearing date. If we don't meet that, we can always push public hearings and so forth off, a week or two. But the longer we wait, the harder it gets. But so April 10th is that date. April 22nd would be the Board of Finance's public hearing on the budget. And then currently the planned annual town meeting is May 6th, followed by the referendum on May 20th.
Thanks.
A meeting after the referendum to set the mill rate as well. So mark that calendar date down. I think last year we had to call Paul from another meeting and make him leave to have a quorum. So make sure you mark that date down.
Sure. Just email them to us.
You got them in paper. Put them in your calendar first.
And send me a calendar invite.
We have minutes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of December 17th, 2024.
Any question on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Giuseppe.
Anything for the good of the order before I let Joe take over?
Nope. That's Giuseppe's.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Right.
Oh, he did it.
Thank you very much.
Go through this again.